We are counting down the 8 bean brands Canadians should never bring home, ranked from hidden risks to outright health hazards, from misleading bargain labels to corporate giants packing cans with excessive sodium, dangerous chemicals, and shocking markups. Some of these pantry staples are far worse than you have been told. Which brand tops the list for hidden harm? Let us begin with number 8. Great Value beans, sold under Walmart's house label, promise savings but deliver uncertainty. Each can could come from a different supplier depending on which contract offers Walmart the lowest price that month. This constant churn means what is inside is not always consistent. One batch might taste different or have a slightly altered texture compared to the last. On paper, the sodium looks manageable, ranging from 340 to 400 milligrams per serving. But that still puts a single scoop at up to 17% of your daily limit, and you are trading reliability for a few cents. The cheapest beans in Canada are built on shifting ground. Bush's Beans likes to trade on its family-owned image, but what is inside the can is more of a sugar rush than a wholesome meal. A single serving of their baked beans delivers 12 to 15 grams of sugar, about as much as a chocolate bar, plus 390 to 460 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly 1/5 of your daily salt limit before you have even added anything else to your plate. The real secret is not in the recipe, it is in the marketing budget. While you pay for those catchy dog commercials, your family gets a dose of hidden salt and sugar disguised as healthy protein. Van Camp's pork and beans sits on Canadian shelves with a number that should stop anyone in their tracks. 510 milligrams of sodium in a single serving. That is nearly a quarter of Health Canada's daily recommended limit, and that is before you have added anything else to your plate. A family dinner with these beans can push sodium intake into dangerous territory, especially when 4 servings add up to more than 2,000 milligrams. The label promises pork and beans, but less than 5% of the can is actual pork. What you are really buying is a slurry of salt, sugar, and water, with 10 to 12 grams of added sugar per serving that helps mask the salt overload. Conagra, the parent company, produces this same formula under different brands, making it seem like you have choices. In reality, Van Camp's is the sodium kingpin, an industrial product disguised as comfort food, quietly driving up health risks with every spoonful. Del Monte beans line Canadian shelves with labels that promise peak freshness and a legacy stretching back over a century. What the can does not tell you is who actually grew, processed, or packed those beans, or even in which country. The Del Monte brand is now controlled by a web of offshore holding companies and licensees, with roots in Singapore and the Philippines, not the American farmland most shoppers imagine. In Canada, Del Monte beans are often contract packed by third parties, sometimes in North America, sometimes abroad. Nowhere on the can will you find a clear supply chain or a guarantee of origin. What you do get is 380 to 440 milligrams of sodium per serving, enough to hit nearly 1/5 of your daily limit. Meanwhile, the real profits flow to private equity style owners who collect licensing fees while keeping production as cheap and opaque as possible. Freshness is just branding, and what is inside is anyone's guess. Hunt's beans sit on the shelf with a price tag that makes you think you are buying something special. At $2.50 or more per can in many major grocery stores, Hunt's positions itself as a premium choice, but the contents tell a different story. Each serving delivers 450 to 490 milligrams of sodium, about 1/5 of your daily limit, and right in line with the cheapest beans on the market. The ingredients list is nearly identical to bargain brands: beans, water, salt, and sometimes a splash of tomato sauce with up to 10 grams of sugar. What you are really paying for is the red label and a few marketing lines about quality, not any measurable difference inside the can. Conagra, the $11 billion US conglomerate behind Hunt's, uses its scale to push prices higher while keeping costs rock bottom. The so-called premium is just a branding tax, proof that in Canada's grocery aisles, perception costs a lot more than reality. President's Choice and no-name beans fill entire aisles in Canadian supermarkets, but the choice is more illusion than reality. Both are house brands of Loblaws, Canada's largest grocery retailer. With Loblaws, Sobeys, and Metro controlling 75% of the grocery market, these private labels dominate the shelf, not because they are the best option, but because competition is quietly squeezed out. The beans are typically sourced from the same third-party canners that supply national brands, sometimes even running down the same production lines. The sodium in these cans lands between 350 and 420 milligrams per serving, right in the middle of the pack, but still enough to hit up to 18% of the daily limit in just half a cup. Loblaws uses its market power to set prices, dictate shelf placement, and pressure suppliers, making it nearly impossible for smaller brands or healthier options to break through. What looks like a wall of choices is actually a carefully orchestrated display designed to keep you buying from the same powerful hands. The real cost is hidden in plain sight. Unico beans are a familiar sight in Canadian pantries, their labels wrapped in red, white, and green, hinting at a homegrown legacy. But the story behind the can is anything but local. Unico is owned by Sunbright Foods, a company with deep Canadian roots, yet the beans themselves are often sourced from international suppliers. The packaging leans hard on Canadian identity, but the journey from field to factory can cross continents before landing on a Canadian shelf. Each serving of Unico beans delivers 390 to 460 milligrams of sodium, up to 20% of Health Canada's recommended daily maximum in just half a cup. The company sits within a sprawling portfolio of food brands controlled by billionaire interests, treating the maple leaf as a sales tool rather than a promise of origin. While shoppers reach for Unico expecting a product that supports Canadian farmers, the reality is a global supply chain engineered for profit, not transparency. The national branding is a calculated move, designed to win trust while quietly masking the true source of what is inside. In a market where even identity is for sale, Unico stands as a reminder that what looks local can be anything but. Heinz beans have become the ultimate example of how a trusted staple can quietly turn into a triple threat: nutritional, economic, and chemical. A half-cup serving packs around 480 milligrams of sodium, putting a single can dangerously close to half the recommended daily limit before you add anything else to your meal. That is not an accident. Kraft Heinz, one of the world's most powerful food giants, has the resources to lower sodium, but keeps it high, knowing that taste habits keep sales strong and reformulation would cost pennies per can. Over the last decade, Canadian shoppers have watched the price of Heinz beans climb steadily, with regular prices now often double what they were just a few years ago. At the same time, can sizes have quietly shrunk from 398 milliliters to as little as 375 or 389 milliliters in some stores. The result is a classic case of shrinkflation. You pay more, you get less, and the company's profit margins stay protected. Kraft Heinz has reported strong earnings throughout recent food inflation, rewarding shareholders while families stretch their grocery budgets thinner each month. For decades, Heinz beans were packaged in cans lined with BPA-based epoxy, a chemical Health Canada links to hormone disruption and widespread exposure found in 91% of Canadians tested. Kraft Heinz now claims to use alternatives, but refuses to disclose exactly which chemicals line their Canadian cans. Toxicologists warn that many so-called BPA-free linings simply swap in BPS or BPFA, which can disrupt hormones in similar ways. There is no requirement to list these substitutes on Canadian labels, so shoppers are left in the dark about what they are really bringing home. Heinz stands at the intersection of every problem in the canned bean aisle: sky-high sodium, shrinking value, and chemical risks hidden behind a familiar label. The company markets beans as affordable, healthy protein, but the reality is a product engineered for profit, not for your family's health. Across all 8 brands, one pattern stands out. Canadian beans aren't just oversalted, they are controlled by a handful of corporations trading health for profit. This isn't just about beans, it is how our entire food system operates now. Real change starts when we demand better and when we know what is inside the can.